Welcome back to ASOJack's Media Grounds. I am Chris, and we are taking a look at the 2017 Mummy for this week's Wednesday movie catch-up. This was directed by Alex Kurtzman, who is kind of the modern showrunner for modern Trek. It was also written by David Cope, Christopher McQuarrie. It stars Tom Cruise as Nick Morton, Sofia Boutella as Ahmanet, Annabella Wallace as Ginny Halsey, Russell Crowe as Henry Jekyll, and then Jake Johnson as Sergeant Vale. The story is essentially Ahmanet is the princess of Egypt. Her dad, the pharaoh, then sees a lovely lady who he decides to get jiggy with, and has a son who then becomes the next in line for the pharaoh or the throne, even though Ahmanet was supposed to be the next in line. And because of this, she then decides to make a deal with Set, which the movie establishes as the god of life and death, which doesn't really follow Egyptian lore, but if we go with what the movies decide to establish him as, it is what it is. And so as she's getting ready to take her chosen one and insert by stabbing him with the knife that has a stone and the soul of Set, so Set can walk on the mortal plane in the body of a mortal. She is stopped by what I'm assuming is supposed to be the Pharaoh's guards. They don't really explain it, because she's killed the Pharaoh and the Pharaoh's wife and newborn child, because she wants to take over. And so they stop her by shooting darts into her, and then they mummify her, put her inside a sarcophagus, and bury it in the desert. And then we are introduced in the modern times to Tom Cruise's Nick Morton and Jake Johnson's Sergeant Vale, who are a couple of thieves and treasure seekers in Iraq. I was kind of expecting Tom Cruise's character to be more closer to Rick O'Connell, Brendan Fraser's character from the 99 Mummy. Instead, he's more like him and Jake Johnson are they kind of feel like they're Benji split into two characters. And so Sergeant Vale gets bitten and is cursed, and then Tom Cruise, Nick Morton, ends up killing him, and then they kind of took from An American Werewolf in London, where because Tom Cruise has killed him, now Sergeant Vale is showing up as a ghost and mocking him and telling him how he's never going to get out of this curse, and how Ahmanet's going to take over his body, and there's nothing he can do about it. And so it's really a weird movie in the way that it's not an adventure movie like I wanted, but you see Tom Cruise running a lot. And knowing this, Chris McQuarrie was one of the writers involved in this, and a lot of his writing is based on sets, and they do a lot of jumping from set piece to set piece. So this very much feels like Mission Impossible in that way, with the later Mission Impossible movies having a lot of set scenes, and then it would jump to a new set. However, unlike Mission Impossible, where it's understandable and you know where they're going, this one does a lot of jumping around, cuts and everything, and it's really hard to follow at times where they're at without them telling you, and they don't tell you a lot of times. You're told they're in Iraq when they're leaving, and then you're told that the plane is falling, as it is in the trailer, in London.
I saw her. She is
And so you're really kind of not aware of where they're at when it cuts.
Please meet.
And then there are moments in which you have
She will claim
Nick Morton going into a green screen tunnel. You can clearly tell that it's green screen and not a set. That they kind of set up for that specific scene. And there's a bunch of undead mummies. I mean, I guess you call them mummies, but they're really just skeletons chasing after him. And it's such a bizarre movie because there is clearly a template here for a potentially good movie, but it's an hour and 50 minutes long. It should have been an hour and a half. The 20 minutes just are unnecessary scenes that feel like they drag at times. It wasn't quite as entertaining as I was hoping for. You do get to see Tom Cruise run a lot in this movie. There's quite a few scenes where it's obviously set up just to have him run. And I'll give it to Tom Cruise. He looks like he's running in those scenes. Like he's always looked like he's running in every movie scene he's ever done. Tom Cruise obviously gives it his all when it comes to the roles he plays, and I won't fault the guy for that. I just think this was a failed attempt at a mummy movie. It was also a failed attempt at Universal was trying to capitalize on the MCU popularity. They wanted to start their own Dark Universe series with 2014's Dracula Untold, starring Luke Evans. And then this was the second one in the series because we get introduced to Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, played by Russell Crowe, who is the head of a organization that is hunting down monsters. And then, of course, he makes, if you've ever looked at the SCP, Secure, Contain, Protect, online stories that fictional stories that people make up and everything, he kind of has this whole SCP monologue about how they have to find these monsters, contain them, and then destroy them, and I was kind of like, okay, and so we're stealing from that too. But they would have been better off if they'd taken Tom Cruise's character and kind of made him into an adventurer. They could still have him as a thief, if you want to do that route and everything. Where him and his friend Sergeant Vale are kind of going after this gold, and then they come across this group that is looking for the mummy, Ahmanet. They know about her based on recorded history, but they want to make sure that they can contain it. And so they could have gone that route with it, and if they wanted to do a dark universe, you have like this group that is hunting these monsters down. So you have the mummy, which then, because of Nick Morton, Tom Cruise's character, he accidentally unleashes the mummy, and the group has to work on dealing with that. There was a movie in 1987 called The Monster Squad, which was a bunch of kids who loved Universal monsters, and then they have to fight Dracula. Great movie. And that's kind of the template that Universal probably should have gone with instead of trying to do what they did with this one. And because it's not a very entertaining movie. I don't see it as having a whole lot of rewatchability. I know now that I've seen it, I don't have any interest to rewatch it. It's not like the 99 Mummy movie, which I still go back and rewatch because it's such an entertaining movie and it's well paced. So I mean, my overall rating for this one is going to be a 2 out of 5. just unfortunately should have been set on the back burner a little bit longer. They should have, instead of trying to copy what other people were doing, they should have tried to work on something a little bit better with this. If you haven't had a chance to see it, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think or you thought about it. Is it one you've seen? If you haven't seen it, like I said, I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think it's all that great a movie. Unfortunately, there is the potential for a good movie here. It just didn't happen. And then like the video and think about subscribing to the channel, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye bye.